Have you heard of Love Your Brain? We're a national nonprofit founded upon a radical belief. Healing after brain injury is not just possible, it can be transformative when care centers the whole person. This March, we're launching the first ever Love Your Brain Summit, a 3-day online global gathering of visionary leaders, brain health experts, and the brain injury community to learn about emerging holistic therapies backed by science. Join us to gain knowledge, new tools, and community inspiration to take your healing to the next level.
And so they get in some really pretty rigid, patterns that they can develop over the years. And when they come to us, we're like, it's okay. You're in good company, but we're going to change that. You're going to avoid avoiding from here on out. And we're going to embrace change and challenge, but we're going to do it in baby steps so that you can do it. So, and we'll hold your hand through the whole thing, but we're going to make sure that you're constantly being challenged and things are constantly being changed up. And we want you smiling while you're doing that.
Welcome to Life After Impact, the Concussion Recovery Podcast. I'm Dr. Ayla Wolf, and I will be hosting today's episode where we help you navigate the often confusing, frustrating, and overwhelming journey of concussion and brain injury recovery. This podcast is your go-to resource for actionable information, whether you're dealing with a recent concussion, struggling with post-concussion syndrome, or just feeling stuck in your healing process. In each episode, we dive deep into the symptoms, testing, treatments, and neurological insights that can help you move forward with clarity and confidence. We bring you leading experts in the world of brain health, functional neurology, and rehabilitation to share their wisdom and strategies. So if you're feeling lost, hopeless, or like no one understands what you're going through, know that you are not alone. This podcast can be your guide and partner in recovery, helping you build a better life after impact. How often do you see people choose to change jobs or change careers as a result of having a pretty heavy symptom burden or just struggling to go back to their previous job?
Yeah, actually more frequent than I would have guessed when I started doing this, because sometimes it's not a great fit anymore. Or they discover that we do so many things in our clinic. I mean, if you're with a therapist for 7 hours a day, for 2 weeks in a row, you learn quite a bit. And we start realizing you're really good at this and you love this. Have you thought about this? And, we're occupational therapists. And so we also feel pretty adept at helping people navigate and explore, things that they might be good at or they might be interested in. And so we do have a lot of career switches.
I see that in my population of people that I work with too, is the desire to find a different job that maybe doesn't involve sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day. Yeah, and I've seen people who have switched from one job to another where maybe they can be outside more or just doing a wider variety of different things. And you kind of just see them thrive in a different type of career choice.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're moving all the time in our clinic. We're almost on our feet the entire time doing stuff and getting outside and they just start feeling better and then they understandably start getting nervous about going back and sitting in front of a computer and doing and not moving anymore. And they've already figured out this is what's helped me get to where I'm at. I don't want to go back to sitting and doing that. And so some of them don't have a choice. And I'm saying, okay, for you, you're going to pause and get off that computer and you're going to go for a little walk. You're going to take a little brain break. You're going to get some exercise and fresh air maybe. And you're going to work with your employer, hopefully, to be able to do this. And then you're going to come back and be more effective when you do sit down in front of the computer. So some of them have had to kind of navigate that sort of a adapted way of working. And then others will do the whole career switch, like you say. And so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it will be interesting too, just to maybe see how AI can help people in terms of taking some of the like busy work off their plate and maybe free up their time to do other things.
I know we've wondered if we should do a little in our intensive part of our 2 weeks, help them figure out how to use AI a little bit. And for some,
Yeah.
it might be helpful that way. I really believe that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with like the type of work that we do. We have to constantly be staying on top of all of the new things that are coming out that could
Yeah,
potentially make people's lives easier.
yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about ADHD. And you mentioned that briefly. You also mentioned that in the fMRI research that some parts of the brain are kind of offline, other parts of the brain may be compensating and overactive. One of my concerns has always been if you give somebody a stimulant, an ADHD medication that improves metabolism, is it maybe also improving metabolism in an area that's hyperactive in addition to trying to improve metabolism in an area that's underactive? And are you just still promoting an imbalance in the
Mhm.
brain by using stimulants? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, for sure. First of all, it's usually a misdiagnosis if they have not had a history and they hit their head and now they have focus and attention issues. That is not ADHD. And you can go, the DSM-5 criteria even would spell that out. So they shouldn't have been diagnosed with that.
Mhm.
But it's so similar that it does get diagnosed. And often they're like, well, they may not diagnose it, but they say, let's give a prescription for it because
Right.
it's so similar.
Right.
So it is brain altering chemicals you're introducing into the brain. And so when patients come to us, they'll ask us, should I stay on my sleep meds and my headache meds and my ADHD meds and my anxiety meds and my depression meds? They come in with quite an assortment of meds sometimes. And we mostly have them go get approval from your doctor because we're not going to undo what any doctor's saying. So we got to kind of play it safe that way. But I would request if all of them could agree and be okay with you getting off as many of these brain altering substances as possible while you're doing our 2 week of intensive and hopefully and preferably a few weeks before they come in. Most patients are scheduling about a month out or so, and so there's some time to kind of get off of all those drugs. And when they come in, most of our patients that were on all of those drugs, we get the brain to do what it's supposed to do. We want them eating healthy and getting good sleep and we're doing exercise. We do cardio like 3 times a day for little chunks of what we do throughout our 7-hour days. And then we're just doing the right things for the brain. And some good things start happening and they don't end up needing to go back on those drugs.
Mhm.
Most of them are
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm so much better. My brain's actually doing what I want it to do. I no longer have focus issues, and so I'm not going back on that." They don't need to. So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really good point. My understanding is that ADHD is it's a neurobiological condition. There are these very specific sets of diagnostic criteria, and it usually starts in childhood. And so a lot of people who don't have a history of ADHD, like you said, they get a concussion, they have that trouble with focus and attention. And I think maybe because ADHD does have kind of this easy prescription treatment out there, it's easy to then just say, well, let's just use this and see,
yeah,
we have this drug that's supposed to increase focus and attention. So let's just try it in this patient population as well. But I agree that there may be some side effects to that, especially if people do have anxiety and autonomic nervous system dysregulation, and they're already dealing with a certain amount of kind of hyperactivity in certain pathways. There might be some side effects to then kind of revving those pathways up as well.
yeah, I agree. I think that definitely is happening. We can't see everything that's going on in the brain, but
Mhm.
I do know the ones that are on medication, for ADHD, and it's not really ADHD because they had a concussion or whatever. Usually those meds are nowhere near as effective for them anyways, because it's treating it in the wrong way. It's treating the wrong problem, and it's really so most of them it's pretty easy to sell on just stop taking them and
Right,
let's
because
see.
they're not quite sure if it's helpful in the first place.
They're already like, I don't think this is working very good. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then let's talk a little bit about memory, because that's also, again, like I would say many people with concussions, they say I have difficulty with focus and attention and memory.
Mm,
So can you talk a little bit about how you're doing multi-sensory activities that
sure.
then can actually support these pathways involved in focus, attention, and memory?
Sure. Yeah. Well, kind of going back to the example of your pathways or your roads having roadblocks.
Mhm.
And essentially, we want to just take the roadblock signs down because there's no damage behind the roadblock sign. But prior to that, they're having a lot of delayed and slow responses to everything that they do. A lot more energy goes into it, and memory gets affected in the mix because retrieving information is slower. Sometimes it's not that they just can't remember, it just takes them a longer time to remember. So it definitely comes up as like a memory issue. And so basically when we take those roadblocks off the road and they're able to do what they were always able to do prior to getting the concussion, then memory comes back. And so to get that to happen, we try to engage in the multisensory approach. We try to engage the brain in a way that doesn't allow it to take these detours. To compensate, the brain is a creature of habit, and it's also path of least resistance. Those are kind of its two main rules. And so when you can show it that working the right way is easier, even if it takes a lot of engaging the brain and challenging them, eventually the brain will engage those areas that are inactive when you do a multi-sensory integration approach, because it just can't compensate. It can't continue to compensate when you're doing hour after hour engaging multiple areas of the brain simultaneously. It doesn't leave it a lot of option to continue in its bad patterns. So it makes it so hard for the brain to keep doing what it's been doing that it eventually engages those areas that are less active. And when I was with the research based clinic that was doing the functional MRI, we would do it before treatment and then after the 2 weeks of treatment. And we could easily see all the areas that were disengaged, getting less blood flow. Now, we're right in the normal range. And their symptoms had gotten better too. So they knew that they had gotten better, but it was nice to see it on the scan too and say, look, this is working. And the main thing in between those two scans was getting multiple areas of their brain to engage at the same time. And memory was just one of those bonuses that would improve and get better again once the whole brain started functioning.
Hi, Dr. Ayla Wolf here. If you or someone you love is still struggling months or years after a concussion and wondering, why am I not better yet? I wrote my book, The Concussion Breakthrough: Discover the Missing Pieces to Recovery, just for you. This book is your ultimate resource guide. It maps out why recovery can stall, explores overlooked root causes, and introduces today's most effective therapies, offering clarity, direction, and real hope that healing is still possible. My book is available globally through Amazon.com. Just click the link in the show notes. Yeah, so you're not necessarily just trying to give people memory tasks to
No.
improve their memory. You're trying to engage their visual system, their vestibular system, their frontal lobes, their conversational abilities, kind of all at the same time. And a
Yes.
byproduct of that is then their brain is just working better in all areas, including memory.
Yes, exactly. It's like They come in with light sensitivity and noise sensitivity as another example. You're not going to work directly on challenging their sensitivity to light or noise as much. I mean, there's a little bit of that, and we make them take their sunglasses off because some of them have that everywhere they go, and we do challenge those areas a little bit, but it's usually just a byproduct of getting the whole brain working better, that a lot of those secondary symptoms or issues just start getting better. And it's fun when they start improving. They're like, oh, we haven't been working on that, but I've noticed that I don't have this anymore. Like, yeah, it's just because all the neural connections are being reestablished, and it makes everything work better. And you don't, in fact, targeting just cognitive stuff when they have memory and problem solving and organizational issues, when you just target those areas, it tends to really just overwork the areas that are trying to compensate in those areas. It's not doing what you want to do. And so it almost has the opposite effect when you target too much the area that is a cognitive deficit, or the memory, or whatever it is. And so it tends to improve when you get the whole brain working. So.
And do you also include elements of promoting cognitive flexibility and doing things where, again, like maybe the rule set changes, or, people have to be able to like do one thing and then do a different thing?
Yeah. In fact, almost every one of our multisensory integration activities that we do has an element. First of all, there's an element of grading up and down for challenge, so that we're trying to hit the just right challenge all the time. But part of that is as they start to get it and they're like, okay, I'm getting it. And we always want success because we get that extra dopamine, and it's really good, for them to keep wanting to go. And you want the general mindset of like, oh, that was hard, but I did it. Oh, that was also a little bit hard, but I did it. And that you want that to build on those experiences. But what was your question?
Oh, we're talking about how you're incorporating like aspects of cognitive flexibility.
Oh, yeah. And so the other element that we have with each of those multisensory activities is that we're not only grading up and down for the difficulty level, but we're trying to build in flexibility elements to all of those tasks. So, okay, we did this way, but now we're doing it this way. And we're changing the rules of how we do that activity constantly, because life is kind of that way, and we need to prepare them for that as well. But it also really helps to engage the brain if we mix it up constantly. So
In a safe and positive environment.
yeah, and it's nice to do that in the clinic, because prior to coming, and I'm sure you know this because you've worked with these patients, but the go-to is don't do any of those risky things. Just do the things that you're comfortable with. Other things may even trigger or cause symptoms, so they have an added reason to not, challenge their brain too much or step out of the norm. And so they get in some really pretty rigid, patterns that they can develop over the years. And when they come to us, we're like, it's okay. You're in good company, but we're going to change that. You're going to avoid avoiding from here on out. And we're going to embrace change and challenge, but we're going to do it in baby steps so that you can do it. So, and we'll hold your hand through the whole thing, but we're going to make sure that you're constantly being challenged and things are constantly being changed up. And we want you smiling while you're doing that. So.
Yeah, I love it. And how much are you incorporating sound elements into this multisensory? Because you mentioned people have sound sensitivity. So are you kind of intentionally introducing a sound element to either a distracting sound or people having to like ignore something while doing something else?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it drives them crazy at first, but we ease into that one as well. If someone works, so one example, we had a mechanic that had a concussion, and was post-concussion syndrome. He came in and he's like, I can't handle the noise, and there's so much noise, machinery and stuff like that. And it's amazing what you can find on YouTube in terms of like sound stuff. So
Annoying sounds.
now, yeah, noise of a mechanic shop, and we funneled that in while we were doing other things, and he had to think on his feet and engage. So yeah, we'll introduce that's usually in our second week. Our first week usually don't get to that much challenge, but in the second week, we like to start introducing elements of what they're going to have when they go back into real life, and that's one of the elements is helping them.
A soundtrack of 20 screaming children on a playground.
Yeah, we have moms that are like, I kind of love it here, and I don't know how when I go home, I love my kids, but I don't know how I'm going to deal with it, and so we have to, sometimes it's crying children. So
Yeah. That's what I just absolutely love about that creative element in the recovery process is like, okay, what is your job? Or, what is your life like at home? What are the challenges for each individual person? And then introducing the soundtrack of the screaming kids or the mechanic
yeah.
shop. Or last Thanksgiving, my two nephews came over and my dog has a couple of different soccer balls. And so my two nephews were like bouncing these soccer balls asynchronistically for about 4 hours straight, and I almost just lost my mind. And so this year I said to my boyfriend, I go, we need to hide those soccer balls this year.
I thought you were going to tell me about a story about how after that you decided you would intentionally expose yourself to that so that next time it happened, you'd be good.
I'm still in the avoidance phase.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, thank you so much for giving us kind of a window into your clinic. Why don't you let us know where people can find you, what resources you have, your website, all that good stuff?
Sure. Yeah, you can find us at ncxbrainrecovery.com. So, so we do free consultations. That's probably the best starting point. And like I said, mostly that's what we do is virtual consults. We'll even do a symptoms checklist if someone has enough time. I'll even dig deep and figure out, usually it's like, what happened? How many concussions have you had and what were they? And what are the symptoms that it left you with? And then how severe are each one of those? I'm going to go into that. That can take a little while if someone wants a shorter consult. That's a lot easier to do. And we can just, get the basics. But some are really loving the free consult, advice and assessment. It's not an official assessment, but it is kind of giving us an idea as to what's going on. And mostly I'm filtering to see, are you a good fit for what we can help someone with? And we really want every single person that comes into our clinic to go out feeling like they had an amazing recovery. So it's in our best interest as a clinic, but especially in the patient's best interest, that it's a good fit. And so the consult it's a free consult to figure that out. Where are you at? What's going on? I think we can help you, or maybe I send them in a different direction if I don't think we can help them. Yeah, that's the best starting point. And they can ask any and all questions, and it's nice to talk to an actual person who has dealt with this, and it's worth it to us, even if people don't come or decide to do our treatment. Many of them will, and so it's worth it to us, though, to just provide that free service for someone to come in and get a touch point with, okay, I've been dealing with this for years. I have these symptoms, or maybe it's months, but a lot of times it's years they've been dealing with this. And to hear the hope and realize, I don't have to continue with this. People are getting better from this all the time. And most of our patients, think last time we tracked the data for our symptoms reporting from patients, 91% of our patients report 75% reduction in symptoms in the first 2 weeks, which is before we start the 8 weeks of aftercare. And that's targeting trying to get them to that 100%. And usually we get there or we're really close to it. And so
That's great.
It's been awesome. It's a kind of a therapist dream job because people are getting better. And so we'd love to see anyone, if you've been having any symptoms post 1 month from when you hit your head, most of those don't have to continue. So there's a lot of hope with post-concussion syndrome if you do the right things.
Yeah, at the right frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much. I'll include all that in the show notes, and love to just stay in touch on everything you have happening. I love that you're doing these 2-week intensives. I think that makes such a huge difference when you have the right amount of repetition and then novelty and challenge and the multisensory approach. It's unique to concussion recovery, but so important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, have a great day.
All right, we'll see ya.
Medical disclaimer. This video or podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and materials included is at the user's own risk. The content of this video or podcast is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and consumers of this information should seek the advice of a medical professional for any and all health-related issues. A link to our full medical disclaimer is available in the notes. Imagine trying to do something good for your body, like make a high-protein smoothie for breakfast or after a workout, only to find your protein powder is full of junk. Heavy metals, artificial sweeteners, and chemicals you can't even pronounce. It is frustrating when you try to do the right thing, but instead you just end up adding to the toxic burden in your body. As someone who cares deeply about what goes into my body, as well as the patients that I work with, I believe that what we consume regularly needs to support our health, not silently sabotage it. That's why I use Puri. Their protein powder is made from clean, high-quality ingredients, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals and contaminants because they don't just say it's pure, they actually prove it. You can find collagen peptides, whey protein, and plant-based options on their website. Check them out at puri.com. That's PUORI.com, and use the code LIFEAFTERIMPACT for a 20% discount on your first order.